Hello, and welcome to a Young Folk Knits Knit and Chat. Hello Fiber friends, and welcome to the Young Folk Knits podcast. This is a podcast mainly about knitting, sometimes spinning, or whatever other hobby tickles my fancy at the moment. My name is Casey, and I live on a small farm in Arkansas with my husband and our children, where we are beekeepers, we raise animals and gardens, and love spending time outdoors here in the foothills of the Ozarks. The sick kids saga continues. So today is going to be another short episode, but I'm working on my bandana cowl, which is a free pattern by Purl Soho. And Purl Soho sent me a few skeins of their yarn in the Plenty base. This is how much I currently have left. Right now, Purl Soho has a knit along going on for their bandana cowl. It can be knit in any yarn that you would like to. I am using their Plenty base, which is so squishy and soft and absolutely heavenly next to the skin. This is one of the new colors that they have just recently released, and I believe it's called Pearl Gray. But it has this really beautiful lavender tone in it with a really nice, almost heathered quality. This pattern is a really quick knit. I included it in my list of gift knits, and I love it because it's really quick. I have basically knit this up in a day, and it's one of those one-size-fits-all type things. You don't have to worry about customizing it for whoever you are knitting it for. I have followed the pattern to the T on the instructions, and I ran out of yarn. My friend Leanne from the Knitty Stew, she has also just knit the bandana cowl, and she ran out of yarn as well using one skein of the Plenty base. So what I am doing right now is tinking back to my very last decrease row, and after that last decrease row, you are then supposed to knit 3 rounds and then begin your 4 rounds of purl knit, and then you bind off. Well, I ran out of yarn before I could get to the bind off. So instead of doing those 3 rounds after my last decrease round, I am just tinking back to the last decrease round, and I'm going to immediately start the rows of purl and knit and then bind off. So hopefully I will have enough yarn to finish that out. Okay, so now that I'm back to the beginning of the round, I'm going to go ahead and start my final rows and hope for the best on finishing it this time. It's so squishy though, I do love it. If you follow me on Instagram, then you may have seen I put a question box up in my stories to ask for topics or questions to discuss on this week's podcast. Y'all came through as always and gave me some great questions and topics to chat about. So question 1 is non-knitting related, and it is, what are my top favorite movies? I feel like this is a loaded question. I have different categories of movies. I have like my comfort movies, and then I have my exciting movies. I have my movies that I watch when I really need to laugh and not feel many emotions. So used to, I was all about movies. I just watched movies, but in the last few years, I'm not sure if it's because having small children, I'm constantly interrupted trying to watch a movie, and an hour and a half to 2 hours is just a really long time. I have been geared more towards TV shows because I could just watch one episode and I'm more likely to actually get to finish that than I am a movie. So I watch more TV episodes, but let me think about my all-time favorite movies. I'm sure this is extremely cliche, but I think one of my favorite movies to just sit down and watch is You've Got Mail. I love Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan in this movie. It's just, I don't know, Nora Ephron is such a good screenwriter. I love that movie. It's wonderful in every way. Okay, I've got massive tangle here. I'm gonna try to fix. Pretty much all my favorite movies are nostalgic movies. Jurassic Park, the original, #1. I love some of the old James Bond, like Sean Connery, Roger Moore. I love the movie Sabrina. I love the Audrey Hepburn, Humphrey Bogart version and Harrison Ford version. I love Jane Eyre and Sense and Sensibility. The Princess Bride. I might have to think about that one. What I have been watching lately is a few TV shows. So sometimes by the end of the day, I just absolutely need to watch something where emotions are not involved at all. I think that The Office is absolutely hilarious. I've also been watching Elementary again. The first time I watched it, I did not finish all the seasons, and so I've been going back through and watching all of them again. I'm on season 3 right now. One thing I think is really interesting about Elementary is that in the classic Sherlock Holmes stories, Watson was no detective, and Watson is portrayed very differently in this series. Lucy Liu, who plays Joan Watson, a woman, she is actually a very intelligent and proficient detective. So it's really interesting. As far as audiobooks go, I have downloaded the book Destination Unknown by Agatha Christie, and I'm not entirely sure what it's about yet. I just started it, but it is interesting so far. Also, the new Thursday Murder Club book was released, so I've got that downloaded, but I have not started it yet. I wanted to finish the other book that I started first. And then one of my children and myself are listening to an audiobook together, which is, of course, about Minecraft. It is called Minecraft the Island, and it is pretty interesting, I guess, if you like Minecraft. I have also been listening to the new album, which was released by Taylor Swift. So I have been streaming the 3 a.m. version, and it has some very interesting songs as always. Apparently the song Would've, Could've, Should've is about John Mayer, which was the relationship she had when she was 19. And I actually really love John Mayer as a musician. I've been to see him in concert, and he is such a good guitar player. He is really, really awesome. But apparently he done ticked Taylor Swift off because she has wrote multiple songs about him now. I actually really like the song Would've, Could've, Should've, and it may be my favorite from the whole album. I really like it. It's only on the 3 a.m. edition though, not the first part that she released. She sort of came onto the scene, I think she was about 16 and I was 16 when her first album came out, so I was the exact same age as her, and I absolutely loved her song Tim McGraw and Our Song. All of that whole album, I loved it. It was my jam when I was 16. And I've continued to like a lot of her songs. There's definitely some that have not been my taste, but overall I like her songs a lot. And I'm not afraid to say it. Becky loves to make fun of me for my Swiftie ways, but that's okay. I can take it. How many knits are too many knits? Okay, so first of all, do you ever feel guilty about how much time you spend knitting? Short answer is yes. I do. I do feel guilty about how much time I spend knitting because I have so many things constantly, of course, that needs to be done, like laundry, cooking, child rearing, you know, there's things. But what I usually end up doing is knitting while I'm doing other things. I think with knitting, like everything else in life, balance is the key. I do think that you have to keep it in its place, and sometimes I let it overtake my life. But knitting is something that I absolutely love. It helps me with my anxiety. It helps me to keep my hands busy. I find that I can knit while I do other things and multitask, and that makes me feel a little bit better. Also, I just find that it's something that I really need. On the other hand, I constantly feel like I'm not knitting enough, like I'm behind, and I think a lot of that has to do with social media. So I'll just throw that out there. I do love social media as far as I love being able to see other people's projects, their color choices. I love feeling inspired by what I see, but sometimes the need to create content for Instagram or to create content for YouTube or to create content for sponsors can definitely make me feel the need to constantly be making things. And that can 100% make me feel behind and like I'm not knitting enough, like I'm not finishing things fast enough. But I think that that's real life. I mean, most of us have a life outside of knitting. We have a job, we have a family, we have, you know, whatever it is that are our priorities in life that rightly so take up first place. And knitting really isn't something that takes that #1 slot in life, no matter how much we all love it. So I do feel like trying to find a balance is really important. And like I said, while I think social media is very useful and I utilize it and I use it and I enjoy it and I appreciate it, I do find that it can increase my anxiety for sure. It can make me feel like I'm not producing enough or fast enough or good enough. And sometimes, even if it's not making me feel any of those things, just scrolling and looking at the huge mass of content can make me feel overwhelmed. Because of that, I've had to limit the number of people that I follow on Instagram. And it's not that I don't follow people because I don't like them or I don't like their things. It's just that I simply feel overwhelmed and I have to sort of curate my feed a bit. I think we've all been there. But yeah, hearing my kids say, "Why are you always knitting, Mom?" Yeah, I feel a little guilty sometimes. Okay, y'all, I'm getting scared. I am halfway through binding off for the cowl, and this is how much yarn I've got left. I've got about, I don't even think I have 36 inches. Okay, the race is on. The race. Like, the faster I knit, the more yarn I'm gonna have. Knit, knit, knit. Okay, let's talk about a question while I finish this. There are a lot of good questions on here. I'm gonna have to save this for the next knit and chat. Let me talk about this one though. What to make with 1 skein of DK weight boucle yarn? Not sure what the boucle will do. Okay, this is a good question. So, boucle yarn is very unique. When it knits up, it almost gives this sheep-like appearance to your finished project. It almost looks like a curly sheepskin, or like my Labradoodle's fur. So because of that unique fabric that it creates, you are definitely not going to want to do anything that you want to have really defined stitch. You definitely don't want to do anything that you have a really defined pattern for. You have basically 0 stitch definition whatsoever. So cables, color work, anything like that is a no-go as far as boucle is concerned. So because of that, when you're knitting with boucle, you've got to really embrace that fabric. And if I had a skein of DK weight boucle, I think I know what I would knit. Oh my goodness, y'all. Oh my goodness. It's not gonna happen. It's not. I would knit the Curly Whirly Clutch. So this is a pattern for a little clutch zip up purse clutch. This is a pattern for a little zip up clutch. I think it's absolutely adorable. It calls for bulky weight yarn, but the beauty of this being something that's not a garment is that gauge does not really matter. You can just adjust your needle size to get the fabric that you want, and you can make it whatever size you want to. But if you want to just follow the pattern, then I think that you would be fine holding it double, and I think that you would get a nice weight for a clutch. And I think that that would be really cool. So this is a pattern by Nina Ruth, and it is available in English, although I think mainly it was written in, is it Norwegian or Swedish? German and Norwegian, but it is available in English. So another option that I think is really fun with that fabric would be a hat, mittens, or a cowl. I'm not sure if one skein is enough for 2 mittens. I'd have to find a DK weight pattern and look at the yardage. But I think that you would have enough to make a hat, and you would definitely have enough to make a cowl. Since you don't really want any kind of fancy stitches going on, I would just cast on a certain number of stitches and join it in the round and knit straight until it's the length that you want, and then bind off, and you have this really fun tube that was a cowl. Okay, y'all, here we go. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I've got 7 stitches left. So I have a really long tail for my cast on. I say really long, it's about twice as long as I need it to be. I'm gonna go ahead and weave this in and then cut it, and I'm gonna use the very last bit of this to finish my cowl, and this will be a zero waste project.
Leaving all my worries, I prepare for something new. Whatever it was that held me back, I'm sure it wasn't true. Holding on too long on unresolved questions holds you down. What could have been a friendly smile has turned into a frown. I'm moving on and on, on and on. I'm moving on and on, on and on. I'm driving in my car, the road is long and full of dust. The landscape changes around me, on and on, I feel immersed. Whatever happened to me happened for my highest good. I read that in so many books, now it's almost understood. I'm moving on and on, on and on. I'm moving on and on, on and on. Seagulls fly around the beach house that I rented for a while. You can try to find my number or my FBI file. Sweet is my location, sweet as well my destination. If you're looking to begin, then look no further than within. I'm satisfied with what I've got and still eager for more. The change that you've been looking for will come knock on your door. On and on, on and on, on and on, on and on. I'm moving on and on, on and on. I'm moving on and on. I'm moving on. I'm moving on.
Okay, last question. How many knits are too many knits? In the words of Britney Spears, gimme more. Gimme, gimme more. Gimme more. Gimme, gimme more. But also, in the words of Taylor Swift, never take advice from someone who's falling apart. Alright y'all, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you're a new viewer, I hope you enjoyed it, and if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for continuing to support me. If you want to see more videos like this, then please make sure and subscribe. Subscribing, commenting, liking, those things really help my channel out so very much, and it is greatly appreciated. I hope you all have a wonderful first week of November, and until next time, happy knitting.
Until the spring liberates me from my winter hell. I've got candles and candy. I can be your daddy if you only let me creep into your prison cell.